All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to Everything MYJ. I am your host, Gino Pagano. With me is Spags. Spags, introduce yourself, brother.
Yo, thank you so much for having me, Gino. This is my name's Anthony Spags, kind of my nickname from high school. I got a long Italian name, similar to yourself, that people clearly couldn't say very well when I was in high school. So I just got Spags. I got the shortened up, and I host Friday Night Flight. It's a New York Jets show. Friday nights 8 p.m. Part of the Every Morning Quarterback brand. So thank you for having me, dude. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for being on the show. I know you've been kind of doing this for a while, like we have. I love collabing with people, creating content. So I'm glad you're on the show. Glad we could do this. We're going to be talking a lot about the Jets and just about you as well, and just about tomorrow. Tomorrow's last preseason game for the Jets and Giants until we go to the. Everyone keeps cutting from the 53-man roster on Tuesday at 4 p.m. It's going to be a doozy. I don't really know what's going to happen. I know you don't know what's going to happen, but man, I just want to know. We all want to know. So
I just want to get it over with. Rip off like the Band-Aid. I want to know who's on this 53-man roster. Who's the big name that's probably gonna get cut.
right.
There's some guys lingering right now that I think could be on the block, and I just want to know. Yeah, I want to know who our team is heading into the next week.
Amen to that. So first and foremost, sorry, I'm stuttering today. How did you become a Jets fan?
That's a great question. We were talking a little bit off the air, and I grew up in Burlington, Vermont, and so geographically, I got some options, right? I mean, really, you can go with anybody because Vermont doesn't have a team, but Patriots, Giants, Jets, kind of what I've been always just kind of surrounded by. My dad's from East Boston, so him and my older brother, Patriots fans. So,
Oh,
nah,
oh,
my mom's from New
Godspeed.
York, so I got some options there. And when I was a kid, I think I've always had a flair for like the underdog because I mean, man, the teams that I grew up cheering for, Jets, Mets, Maple Leafs. Somehow the Maple Leafs became my hockey team back in the day. And then the Celtics, because I mean, back in the '90s, it was the ML Carr Celtics, man, and awful. But I had a flair for like the underdog. I think I probably chose the Jets when I was a young kid just to tick off my dad and my brother, to be perfectly honest, because they are New England Patriots fans. And then I stuck with it. And some would say, hey, the last 20 years, man, you went ahead and chose wrong. Should have jumped to the Patriots. Nah, because when the Jets win it, dude, it's going to be so much sweeter than all five of the Patriots ones.
And no one ever knows a bandwagon Jets fan.
No.
So, I mean, never. We're ride or die till the end. I've been one since I was 9 years old, and I
Yep.
guarantee you probably somewhere around that age for you.
Correct.
What is your favorite memory of going to training camp, a game, and just even an away game? Those three? What about you?
Yeah. Man, just I got some great memories just from watching games as like a kid, and some stick out. The Wayne like Corbett catch from Curtis Martin in the end zone 2000. I got a great story about the whole Monday Night Miracle in a moment, but I
Ooh.
was at the New York Jets game in 2010 when Favre was actually visiting as a member of the Minnesota Vikings year after he actually left the Jets, and he threw his 500th touchdown. I know he was on the visiting team, but I was kind of a Favre guy growing up too. I kind of always liked
Me
Favre.
too.
It was a
Me
pretty cool
too.
moment. It was raining that night. It was just a weird game, but it was like there was two different rain delays. There was lightning, thunder. Jets fans were rowdy that night. Rowdy, it was awesome, and to see Favre get his 500th, so I got to see history as well as the Jets win the game. It was a pretty sweet thing to hear. But the Monday Night Miracle is, I mean, I know it's a big one, but it probably stands out as my favorite one. When I was a kid, I had this little like TV in my room, and it had the little like the whole tin foil like antennas, and I used to like record every single Jets game whenever they were on TV. That week, the VCR broke, so they're on Monday night, and I'm like, man, I'm just a kid, right? I'm like 11 years old, and I'm like, oh man,
Mm.
staying up on a school night, parents aren't gonna fly with this. So I put a blanket over the TV, huddled under the blanket so they couldn't see the light, and I watched that game, and it was the Monday Night Miracle, man. You couldn't script it any better. So I got to stay up and watch that, and I wouldn't have been able to watch it the next day because the VCR broke. So I got to actually
Oh.
watch it live, which was pretty sick.
Hey, and I mean, for a game like that, I bet you any Jets fan that's watching this or all over the world has an amazing story, but your story with the VCR, that's got to be one in the record book for you.
Can't even script it, man. One of my all-time favorite Jets games, player-wise. I've always been attached to some guys like, Wayne obviously is one of my guys, sticking to that underdog theme. My favorite Jets player of all time, Gino, is Jericho Cotchery. He's like my favorite Jets player of all time.
Okay.
I got the Koch jersey, got the Koch sign pick. Like, I just love Jericho Cotchery. From his rookie year, he got that big kickoff against the Rams at the end of the year. Got us in the playoffs, but just always loved Koch. I mean, even that play against the Browns when he's limping around catching a ball, just something about him was always drawn to Cotchery. So he definitely goes down as probably my all-time favorite Jet.
Man, and that's what I love. That's what I love to hear, stories like that. It's not only the connection with the player, but it goes deeper than that. My thing is with Corbett and Joe Namath is similar to yours. I just kind of stuck with them and just never stopped.
Yeah.
So now training camp. You been to training camp before?
I've been once, and I really want to go again next year too. I'm gonna make a point of it.
It's an amazing experience. I'm going to my first Jets game in 2 weeks, at MetLife. MetLife. Never been to a training camp for the Jets before. I've worked for the Rams. I've been to all kinds of stuff with the Rams and stuff. But when it comes to MetLife, I'm gonna be rocking. But with you, so you went to a training camp once. Have you ever been doing an away game at all?
No, never been to an away game. Tried to get to a Jets Patriots game just because my family's from Boston. Tried to get to a Jets Patriots games a few years ago, and the Patriots tickets are, I mean, they think that they're the Los Angeles Lakers of the NFL.
Yeah.
The ticket prices are insane for them. So I got my eye on a game this year. I'm hoping to get to a Jets home game. Jets against the Bengals and Jets against the Bears, when they're going to be putting up Darrelle Revis in the whole Ring of Honor, is going to be something I'm going to hope to probably get to. But
man, that's awesome. I love that they're doing the Ring of Honor this year with Mangold, Ferguson, and then Ferguson, Mangold, and then Revis. And even next year, Klecko might go in the Hall of Fame next year, and then you might have Revis going in there. I hope we can have a Hall of Fame game.
Absolutely, man. And as you were saying, like, you and I probably became Jets fans around the same age. That those three guys that you just mentioned that are going to the Ring of Honor, definitely a large part of my youth watching those guys play. Too. So,
especially when you have Mike Westhoff on recently, like we have, even watching Hard Knocks. I love Hard Knocks. I don't care. I don't care like what team is on Hard Knocks, but when the Jets were there, I got so giddy. Even watching Flight 22 right now, I just want to cry and bawl my eyes out. So, have you been enjoying Flight 22?
Love it, man. Every time I watch one of those episodes of Flight, of like the one Jets Drive, every time I watch one of those, I always just walk away just thinking like, wow, the Jets are going to win this thing. They're going to win the whole thing. Every time I watch it, I'm like, this team's got something. They're going to win the whole thing. Right? Is this something? And there is some. I know it's the way that they film it on it, but there's something about this team this year that it feels different. It feels different. So I'm looking forward to it.
Now, going by what you said, that it feels different, how do you feel about the draft this year? How do you feel about the free agents that we got? And how do you think preseason is going so far?
Yeah, I feel better about this draft than I did about 2020. That's for sure. And going, after 2020, I was probably way too optimistic about Ashton Davis and Denzel Mims, but you know what? It was Joe's first draft. This last draft, I mean, I love the year prior. I thought Michael Carter was a fantastic pick. And then I think this year, man, I think we got some cornerstones similar to the guys that you mentioned going into the Ring of Honor. Not to put that on these guys yet, but they got those three players in 2 consecutive drafts, and it changed the franchise for the next 10 years. And I feel like, man, what we've done the last 2 years in the NFL draft, and then this year, those 3 first-round picks with JJ, with Garrett, and with Sauce. Sauce is the real deal. I mean, I for one thought like maybe he's just a lot of hype. Maybe they just didn't throw at him in college. Boy, you watch him in camp, you watch him in the preseason. No, they're not throwing to him because guys aren't open. I mean, that's just it. And then Breece Hall, think Brees Hall might end up being the steal of this draft. A lot of fans, myself included, maybe we're like, why are we trading up for a running back when we got Mike and we got other needs?
Right.
But it's because you traded up for a guy that could be the next franchise top back. So, I mean, I think that this draft sets you up for hopefully a turnaround over the next 5 to 10 years. And in the preseason, I mean, I like what I've been seeing. I wish we've gotten off to faster starts.
Right.
But a lot of that, I think, is because, I mean, after Zach went down, and when I read it was a torn ACL, I threw up.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And doctors on Twitter called it like an ACL from miles away. But I think after that happened, we've seen the Jets be very cautious with their starting players. So I think a lot of the slow starts have just been because it's the Jets backups against other teams, ones and high quality twos. And I don't think the depth is really our strength yet. So, I mean, that's what we're seeing. But I really like what we got building this year, man. Free agency was another big one. How pumped are you to have Jordan Whitehead, to have CJ Uzama, Tyler Conklin has been looking like an amazing get. And Carl Lawson, I'm counting him as a free agent this year because we never got to see him last year. I'm counting him part of this class. So you throw in Carl Lawson, all of a sudden we got some talent for the first time since probably 2015.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to the talent and when it comes to the draft. This is probably the best draft we've had ever, honestly, from last year to this year. And I think it's only going to get better when it comes to the draft. But at the same time, though, what do you think about Robert Sala? What do you think about his contribute to the team? Now that Joe Douglas has done his job, after when Becton went down, Ian Wilson went down, we got Flacco, we got Dwayne Brown now. How do you think he is handling everything?
It's funny you mentioned that. Actually, like on our show last night, my opening monologue was about Robert Sala, and I've been pretty critical on Twitter of Jeff Ulbrich, just because I want to see something better out of the Jets defense. And I know I was being a little overreactive just because it's, as I mentioned, it's preseason and we haven't seen really our ones in there for that defense yet. But scheme wise, looks like we're doing a lot of the same stuff. So, I mean, I think Robert Sala's got two great qualities that I think were the reason why we hired him and why I think he can lead this team, which is he's a motivator. And I think he's a team builder, man. He gets the guys galvanized, going in the right direction, rowing in the same direction. I just really hope that we get the Robert Sala from the 2020 Niners where you lose talent, but you then adjusted the scheme to fit the players that you had. Because this Jets team, we don't have the linebackers yet or the free safety yet, unless Parks or Pinnock become something big this year, to run that cover 3 stuff that he's trying to run. So I hope he adjusts it to fit our personnel, which is a dynamite pass rush and 2 lockdown corners. So I'm hoping we see a little less stubborn Robert Sala and somebody who's a little more fluid when he's going game to game. Last year, I don't know about you, but it felt like game to game, we were showing teams the same looks every week. And then it just was the same result every week of just giving up big gains. And the Colts game is still etched in my memory of something I never want to see ever again.
Man, I couldn't agree more with that one. I'm watching Hard Knocks right now with the Colts, and they played that Jets game. And I was like, just keep going.
Yeah, and you get all the slow-mo NFL films of Jonathan Taylor bouncing off of 7 Jets going to the end zone. You're just like, nope, don't need to see that. Yeah, I'm good.
Dude, I couldn't agree more.
Yep. Everything looks way like better when they do the NFL film stuff, but if it's your team that's getting the one that's getting, just makes it look so much worse. Yeah.
You know, I keep passing around this line all the time of if the Browns can do it, we can do it, because we've been a losing organization for 10 years. So, but when we were kids and in high school, the only losing started when we were like in our 20s. Yeah. So I'm always like, I don't ever want to see a Jets losing parade like the Browns do, but they have gotten better over the years, and I think we're there now. I think we're at least by next year. You know what I mean? Next year, I feel like it's going to be so much better. But not only as we talk about all this, and we talk about Robert Sala, what do you think Mike LaFleur has to do in this offense to not only surround Zach Wilson with the talent and schemes and all the trick plays that he wants to do? What does he have to do? Because he needs to step up this year. As you mentioned, Olbrook needs to step up this year. And of course, Sala does. What does LaFleur have to do?
That's a really good question. And back on the Browns, there's a lot of things about that team I'm glad we're not, for sure. Throw that out there. But yeah, man, I think one of the best things that happened last year was when Mike went up to the booth. I know it became a Jets like meme of like Booth LaFleur, but it was just so much different that he was able to see the field, and I just think you have a better view from up there of what you're trying to get. But what I think we need to see out of Mike this year is what we saw the last 7-6 games, which is heavy on the run attack. We got great running backs right now, heavy on the run attack, and then quick passes that make the quarterback make up his mind quick and get the ball into your playmakers' hands and let the playmakers make plays. I think when we get in trouble, and especially for however long Flacco is going to play, and I got faith in Joe, but however long he's going to play, he's not as mobile as Zach. So if you make him stand there, especially with not Becton on one side, you know, I trust Dwayne Brown a lot, but our offensive line's still building. You can't make our quarterback stand back there for 6-7 seconds and expect to get anything other than a sack or a forced turnover. So I really want to see Mike call more things that are getting the ball into our playmakers' hands, man. Quick in and outs, quick slants, quick rub screens, quick wide receiver jet sweeps, get the running game going, throwing a couple trick plays. And then all of a sudden, man, you get the run game going, play action, and you got E. Moore 20 yards down the field, wide open. So I want to see Mike get the ball out of the quarterback's hands quick, because we can't have Joe be a statue, and we can't have Zach get murdered again when he's out in the field.
And you brought up a good point about how things switched when he went to the booth, and how much he just needs to surround Wilson with the playmakers that needs. Now that we have that, this is the best tight end core that we have had in a very long time. I can think of maybe the Dustin Keller days. I know my co-host Liam loved Crumbling. Number 83. Honestly, I'm very picky when it comes to tight ends and quarterbacks. So I'm just kind of like a wait and see, because I'm from St. Louis. I'm the show me state, show me something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think now that we surrounded ourselves with good tight ends, wide receivers, even running backs, and even though line even got better when Becton went down. I know I was rooting for Becton, you know, we think we all are. Yeah. But Dwayne Brown, I mean, he's a 3-time Pro Bowler. He's a future Hall of Famer as well. If he can be good with being 37 years old along with Flacco, I think it's just going to turn around just like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I mean, I know when I thought Zach tore his ACL, that was more like I was suffering from minor heart murmurs when I saw that happening. But then when I found out he was going to be maybe out for 1 to 4 weeks, 4 at the maximum, I was like, yeah, Flacco can win, man, and he's playing in. The football gods are smiling on us for once, Gino, right? If Flacco's going to play 4 games, he gets the AFC North. Who else better to play against the AFC North than the guy who ran that division for 10 plus years? So, I mean, I was looking forward to that. I'm like, yeah, let's get a Flacco a revenge game against Baltimore. Let's get a Flacco against the Browns. Like, he used to beat up on the Browns. Like, if there's any team that I like to see Flacco play against, it's teams that he's very familiar with, and that's the AFC North.
I couldn't agree more, especially with the Ravens. That would be great. No matter what. It's
just written in the stars, man.
Oh, I know. The lining.
Yep.
So, you know, we got the Giants game tomorrow. And like I said before, we have Tuesday at 4 p.m. You know, the roster goes down to 53. Who do you want to stay, and who do you want to go?
That's a really good question. Put me on the spot there.
I had to ask it. I love it.
You know, I've had a couple of controversial, maybe in Jets fandom, views on some guys that I hope are there or not there. So I'll just come right out with it, right? Because it's really good TV. So I'm gonna come out with it. I think Tevin Coleman should be cut.
Yeah.
In favor of guys like Bam Knight or LaMichael P. Ryan or Ty Johnson. Maybe keep two of those three, but I think Coleman, he's not giving us much of what he used to. So I would cut him. I was on the train of trade Bryce Hall before he had the game that he had last week, and I think that game last week might have cemented that he won't be there on the roster. Okay. If you're going to keep 5 corners, okay, then he makes it. Maybe probably over Javelin, but he's definitely not above the way he's been playing. He's definitely not above Eccles or Carter II or Reed or Sauce. So he's right now, I have him at 5. And he's more of a zone corner than he is a man corner. So I think he's expendable. But I think you can get a pick for him. And other than that, I think a guy that I really want to see on this team is Calvin Jackson. Which would make 6 wide receivers, which is wild. Because I don't think he jumps Jeff Smith. As we know, Jeff Smith gives us more than just being a wide receiver. He's a great special teams player. But there's 2 guys that can catch passes that I'd like to see on this team, and that's Lawrence Cager. I'd love to keep a 4th tight end and keep Cager, and I'd love to find a way to keep Calvin Jackson. If that means cutting, a tackle like a Connor McDermott who's never really given us much and can save some money, or as much as I love Tanzel Smart and Jonathan Marshall, Clemens can kick inside. Franklin Myers can kick inside. So do you need to keep 3-4 interior DL? I don't know. And then last but not least, man, I love Mike White. It's Mike effing White. That's another game that holds a special place in my heart. But it's the Strevolution. I got to go with Streveler. I'd love to see Streveler be quarterback 3. Dude's mobile, man.
I love it. As we continue to talk about that, Giants and Jets tomorrow. Who needs to have a big game? And do you think we win?
Yeah, I think we do win. I think, I thought we were going to beat the Falcons last week just because we were the deeper team than the Falcons were. And even when we were down 16-0, I was like, nah, because Streveler's coming in. We got Calvin Jack. Like, those guys are coming in, and they're better than the Falcons' 3rd, 4th stringers. I feel similar in this game. I think we're going to get a pretty fun game between, probably Davis Webb and Streveler for most of this thing, second half. I think that's going to be fun. But I think the Jets are the deeper team than the New York Giants. So I like the Jets to win this game. Give me a high-scoring affair. Give me like a 28-20, something like that. Who needs to have a big game? I think some of the guys that we were just talking about, right?
I agree.
So some of the guys that are in those position battles, like a Jonathan Marshall, I think if he has a big show-me game, as you were saying, then it's hard to ignore him being on this team. Bradley Anai, man, he had a great play last week that stood out with the strip sack, fumble return for touchdown. He's got a chance. Jason Pinnock and Philly Will Parks, they're fighting because Ashton Davis has the pedigree of being the top draft pick. Both those guys could be on this roster, and Ashton Davis could be gone. And I think Bryce Hall is fighting for his job. He's either going to make this Jets roster or he's going to be the defensive MVP of the USFL next year. So he needs to show up. He needs to show up big in this game.
Oh my goodness, that's bold. But I like it. I think also who needs to fight for their spot is Joyner, in my opinion, because I know people. I know Sala and the coach said they love Joyner. I get it. He brings that veteran presence, but I was on the fence of Riley being cut. But the thing is, I know Parks has been playing out of his mind. And Pinnock, I know they're not going to cut Pinnock, and I know they want Joyner. I think overall he needs to have a good game as well. And I know they're going to play the starters in the first half, and then they're just going to see what they're going to do in the second, third, and fourth quarter. Now, with that being said, though, I'm always the kind of guy that, like, the game is not over until it's over with, right? I don't care if it's the worst team in the NFL because we shouldn't have won against the Titans and Bengals last year. So it's one of those things where even the Dolphins won against the Patriots when they shouldn't have won. So even the Buccaneers too against the Patriots. So I'm at that point where I'm like, okay, I think it's going to go to the end again. It's not going to go to overtime, but it's going to go to the end. And then Streveler's going to take it to the house again with Calvin Jackson or Mr. Black. Mr. Black is on the bubble too.
He's
He
been
brings
playing great.
tall body. He's a tall body. I think some of those guys make the practice squad. But overall, I think this is the game because I love what they've done with the joint practices. Right, you're going to face against that person on Sunday no matter what, or Saturday. But those guys, they know those guys already. So everyone else has a edge up, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to be competition, more competition. Let the starters do their thing in the first quarter, and then injuries. Injuries. I want to make a shirt. No injuries.
Yeah.
No injuries.
That's who. I mean, I'm rooting for the New York Jets. I'm really rooting for no injuries.
Oh yeah. Right. Exactly. Right.
I'm really rooting for no injuries. Because you're right, man. That's the key to the NFL season. Right. The reason why the Cincinnati Bengals were be able to do what they did last year is because for the most part, their big key players were healthy for the full season.
Right.
And that's the key to the NFL is the teams that are the healthiest at the key positions, they will go the furthest. And the Jets just have been snake bitten the last 2 years. So I'm hoping we get out of this game tomorrow. You're right. That's a great point, Gino. Yeah, get out of this game with no severe injuries and give me a full squad in week 1.
Amen to that.
Mm-hmm.
My last question for you is expectations this year. What's the Jets' expectation, and what's going to be our record, and what do you think the Jets are going to do?
You know, I was just talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, and if you told me last year the Cincinnati Bengals, who were the worst team in the league, or one of them the year before, were going to go to the Super Bowl,
right?
No way. I would have tripled down on that not happening. I would have bet my college savings, whatever, that was not going to happen. So, right. I mean, I think that the Jets, they have a why not us, right? They have equally as much talent as we saw on the Cincinnati Bengals last year, minus the big Burrow Chase combination. So I think that the New York Jets ceiling is very high this year. And this is one of those weird things where I could see, I've made a realistic picture in my head, looking at their schedule, playing stuff out. Right. Not quite a Madden simulation where they got like Dak Prescott winning the MVP and like Elijah Moore looking like, I don't even know. He doesn't look like Elijah Moore. He looks like Shaq from like the early 1990s. It's like, what are you doing? And Braxton Berrios looks like Joseph Gordon-Levitt. I don't know what they're doing in that game. But anyway, so if I had to play it out in my head, I realistically could be like, I could see them going 11-6. And I could see him going 4-13. Like it's that kind of weird. There's not a lot of gray area here. It's either going to be, I think, one extreme or the other. But I'm going to live in the gray area. So to answer your question, I like a 7-10, 8-9 season for the New York Jets, which I think is a win for what we're trying to build. These guys got to experience winning, and it's not like we're going to jump from the back of the line to the line leaders in 1 year.
Right.
So give me a season where we're winning games, we're learning how to win, and then next year, let's go for it. Let's go push the chips in. Let's go all in. So my expectations are playoffs. I think we can do it.
Okay. My
realistic part of my brain is telling me no, probably not this year, especially with the way that the AFC is stacked. So 7-10 would be my New York Jets kind of prediction of where I'm laying right now.
7-10. Okay. That's been a lot of people's predictions lately, is 7-10. For me, I change it up every week.
Same. Really, yeah.
So I'm in there with 7-10 and 8-9. Because they add that 17th game in there. So I think we'll do wild card. And every time when it comes to the Bills, Dolphins, and Patriots, I think they'll win one and we'll win one.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you look at our schedule, a lot of these teams are coming from Europe. They got to play in Europe and come back, right? Or they got to play in Mexico and come back. So it's one of those things where we could catch them at the right time. Mm-hmm. You never know. So as long as we stick with the game plan and go and listen to Sala, listen to the coaches, and also our coaches step up, then And I think it's a surefire change year going into next year, being a badass team, in my opinion.
You bring up a great point on just it all depends on where you catch teams too, right? And then who they're playing the week before and so on. And it's weird to say because it's a 17-game season, but the first 4 games and the last 4 games are the biggest stretches for the New York Jets. If they walk out of that AFC North gauntlet as the AFC North champs and they're 3-1, like now that changes things. Because the last 4 games, you get Seattle and Jacksonville and Miami and the Lions. So you got a chance to go 3-1 on the back end, 3-1 on the front end. There's 6 wins. And then if you do what you just did there and you split against the division, all of a sudden, yeah, you're probably in the playoffs. So I think the first 4 and the last 4 are going to be huge.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better myself. Football gods, hopefully they're on their side this season. No injuries. Spags, thank you for being on the show. Where can we find you again?
Yeah, thank you so much, man. You guys have a great thing going on here. It's so you can follow us. You can follow my New York Jets show at FNF_Jets. We're every Friday night at 8 p.m. on Twitter and on YouTube. Part of the Every Morning Quarterback. That's the other show that I happen to run. At EMQ Podcast is our handle, and then emqpodcast.com. Pleasure being on here with you, man. Anytime I get to talk Jets on a Saturday night, count me in.
Amen. It's a lot of people's favorite topic, going into Twitter Spaces, Instagram Lives, YouTube content. It's our team. It's our team. We love it. We endure it, and don't mess with us during the game on Sundays. Just saying. Just saying. Guys, I'm your host, Gino Pagano, Everything NYJ. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Follow Spags on everything on social media. Spags, you have a good night. Have a safe Saturday night. Go Jets tomorrow.
Thank you, sir.
I'll be back on the podcast tomorrow night. You guys have a good night. See you later, boys.